Welcome back to the Toulouse campaign Abridged. Last time we took the island of Palma and the city of Toledo. Both of those were easy auto-resolves. Then we went on to a more difficult battle at Córdoba, where some occasionally heroic crossbowmen allowed us to take the city. Then there was a pretty standard battle to take Granada as well. We are sweeping through Iberia right now, and we might as well keep going. There is some bad news though as we start the next turn. We've had a rebellion at Toledo, and because I had nothing there, they were able to take over the city right away. It's the Kingdom of Castile, one of the old native Iberian factions, trying to re-establish itself, and to that we say no, we are here to conquer everybody. I've got this little stack I can use to besiege the town. It would be difficult to attack in this situation, but we don't even need to attack really. Just having them under siege will stop them recruiting anything. That'll contain the situation for a bit. The issue we'll then have though is that Córdoba is going to rebel. I had a stack down at Granada that I could spare to go and try to garrison this place, however they couldn't reach it in time. And broadly speaking, public order is going to be a massive issue from now on, because we are taking a whole bunch of Muslim majority territories, and you can get up to -20 public order from having the wrong religion, or the people being not your state religion, and we get -6 from Catholicism due to the Pope hating us, so everyone hates us to some extent. Plus there are all the usual debuffs due to buildings and devastation and instability, things like that, meaning rebellions are going to be a thing we have to face quite a lot. Back to business now. You may remember last time we had this third siege going, and right now I was thinking of making the attack because we could get this over and done with and then go back to fight the rebels. I decided instead to cancel the siege and go back to fight the rebels right now. There's just one enormous flaw in this plan, that is I completely discounted the fact you can't attack on your first turn of siege, in this game at least. So this actually does nothing at all. All I've done is miss the opportunity to take that other town and then go back next turn to help out with an auto-resolve or something. However, there was a way for me to get out of this, it turns out. I can vassalize this kingdom instead, and I was happy to do that because now the public order there is going to be their problem, and the AI will probably cheat to get away with it and we'll be fine. So that ends the siege and we go back to continuing to conquer the rest of Iberia, but by the next turn we have to reconquer Córdoba. This is the real Reconquista, stopping all the locals constantly rising up against Toulouse and Toulouse having to stamp them down. In this case, some rebels from another region, maybe Portugal or something, came over to the territory and they helped me out in the auto-resolve against these rebels. Therefore we kill them easily, retake the territory and prepare for the next rebellion basically. We need to have full stacks in all of these territories to have any hope of holding them. We're also going to want to save up some cash and slowly convert them over to French-style cities so that we have a garrison as well. That way rebellions would be less of a big deal, and of course actual invasions from our enemies who do neighbour us would be a big deal. Luckily the enemy aren't really doing anything right now. Now a while back I had this whole thing about me having 2 generals on Palma facing off against a small enemy army. Nothing happened with that for a long time, and you can see the enemy stopped besieging Palma, but a rebellion has occurred as well. So gradually that situation's getting worse. I'm going to send some reinforcements to sort that out. Now, back over to that city we cancelled the siege on earlier. Another faction, a rebel faction, is attacking them, and I have the opportunity here to participate in the battle. I must admit, when I was actually playing, I thought the rebels were being sallied out against, because that Almohad Pretenders is very similar to the Almohad Caliphate, which is the enemy, and I completely misunderstood what was going on. So I thought, well, I'll just watch them die and then leave, but actually we're attacking the town, interestingly enough, although that doesn't change my strategy, because if I help, the Almohad Pretenders will capture the place, so we might as well just watch them die and then leave, therefore allowing us to come back and siege it next time. Luckily enough, our allies do a pretty awful job with their attack. Perhaps they were expecting help, but their siege tower got set on fire, so that screwed them over. They tried to attack the gate, but the enemy just opened the gate and started killing them. In this case though, we need to make sure the enemy do die enough. We don't want their army to survive and the siege to continue after the end of this. So we wait, see how much stuff dies, and then when everything's gone, hit withdraw, making the battle a draw. And handily enough, we did get the result we needed. The entire rebel army is gone. That siege is over, our forces are untouched, and we can just swoop on in and start another siege once it's our turn, get back into that whole thing, which should have been over anyway if I hadn't messed it up earlier. Anyway, over on Palma, it's time to finish off some enemies. Our arriving reinforcements allow us to easily kill the 2 small hostile stacks. You might note here, I'm going to be doing some ransoming of captives, because someone noted in the comments that if you pick that option, it can make the Pope like you. So even though it reduces your integrity to do this, which is of course a big issue, especially in this campaign, I'm going to try it because I really need that Pope to like me. If I can get some favour so we lose our debuff due to Catholic faith, that would be great. You can see the game actually froze as I went in for finishing off these guys. It seems to softlock sometimes, but if you wait long enough it comes back. It's just doing some gigantic calculation, I imagine. Anyway, in the end turn sequence, we get a nice offer from Wales. They want to be my ally. They're already allied to England, and that's really good for us because our main rival is probably England. They're a really big faction. I think they're the number 2 faction on the map. And having them be stuck in this big coalition with Wales and Scotland will hamper their ability to expand, so that sounds good to me. Now some political machinations need to be done. We're almost at the next level of political strength. I'm going to gather support and remove influence from some of the other nobles by forcing them to take various jobs. There was a rebellion at Granada, but I have a full stack there, so I was able to take it down easy enough. And by the next turn, we have done it. We've clawed our way back to the next level of strength, and this slightly reduces the debuff to integrity we're getting. It also removes some positive things as well. There's pros and cons to the various strength levels, but since integrity is hard to control via other factors, I'm happy to try and get more of that. At this point, I'm really just walking backwards and forwards between our various settlements with my armies, trying to stop them rebelling. We don't quite have enough full stacks to maintain public order everywhere. I also needed to briefly get 2 of our armies together to take this settlement, with 2 armies and another rebellion that started helping us out with this one. That's an easy auto-resolve and we move on in. As I said, we should already be in here, but we finally sorted that problem out. That's going to add another unruly territory for us to manage, which is annoying, but we shall have to manage because if we can hold it, then no one else will get it. And with that logic, I'm actually going to go on and attack Seville right now because if, say, Portugal moved in and tried to take it, that would be annoying. So while we are overextending ourselves here, we're just going to put everything into getting this territory to be technically ours, and then we'll try and actually conquer it by fighting the locals afterwards. In this case, I can once again rely on 2 stacks together to annihilate the garrison there, including the enemy's latest faction leader. I don't think the AI can suffer from any of the political stuff behind the scenes that you can, so this doesn't actually damage them in any way, it just spawns another one for them. Anyway, we get the capture, we can move back to do some garrisoning up there with the army outside the town, and that's that. Now, the real war begins. As I said, we have to fight all of the local people to hold this place down, and gradually save up cash to put some Christian churches down, maybe get some priests. And in terms of strategy, well, there's not that much to be concerned about. We are still next to enemy territory. There are 2 really nicely developed cities nearby there. But the Almohads don't appear to be making any armies or any moves in general, so we can just sit here for a while. And really that's what I do. But there is another minor drama going on. Our Norwegian neighbours who set up in Algiers have unfortunately been taken out by a rebellion by the looks of things, and some other factions are circling around as if they were going to do the same thing, including our old enemies, the Marinid Sultanate, who have just about survived in the form of a horde. This other faction, the Hafsids, are a vassal of the Almohads, I think, or maybe it's the other way around. Something's going on there. Basically, there's another Sultanate/Caliphate style faction sitting around, who are probably going to be very hostile to us. You can see Norway do technically exist. They've got a camp out in the desert, which I guess is also a horde, so technically they can bounce back from that because you can generate units and buildings out of it. Anyway, in the meantime, I had a stack at Myberia, and I thought, well, we might as well sail across and attack the rebels. As it happens, the Hafsids, who are also hostile to the rebels of course, will jump in here and help me out with this fight, so fine, we can easily take down these guys. And because we're making a naval assault, we can go in to attack on the first turn of the siege. My original plan was to just loot and then go, but it turns out this place is so looted already there's nothing to do in terms of stealing cash, so I thought, well, I guess we'll just take it. Actually holding it would be a bit of a bugger, and I'd rather send my forces back to continue holding Myberia, but while I was here, I did have the chance to take down the Marinid Sultanate army that was nearby. So that's that off the table. We've been at war with them for a long time, and finally we've technically won, even though we really won a long time ago. Another chance to ransom some captives. And also, there is a war weariness system in the game, so in theory just ending a war like that has an advantage, but I think our war weariness is at 0, and it's been at 0 the whole time. I'm not sure if it's actually functioning. We're actually totally at peace. I guess I got a peace treaty with the Almohads at some point during the me sitting around phase, which has been the last few turns that I'm mostly cutting out. Although I did go straight to war with someone right after this. I got some money off Aragon to attack some Aragonese pretenders. This random fleet of their rebels was sitting in my harbour raiding, which was inconvenient. So I joined their war against them to go out and bring them down, which we do in short order. That'll increase public order and our money a little bit. But also, we do some more captive ransoming, and that actually does get us another Pope point. I think you have to do it like 3 or 4 times to get one, but now our debuff due to the presence of Christianity has been reduced. A few more of those, and maybe the Christians will like us once again. Although, as you can see, we're still a long way off stability, even with armies in our cities. I brought my troops back from Africa, and Algiers did rebel. This actually recreated the Marinid Sultanate, so our old enemy is back once again. They've only got a few units, but it is a concern because they can sail across and attack Mercia in 1 turn, meaning having a hostile faction just across the sea there is actually something to be worried about. Now we're going to start a new project. We're here skipping ahead a few turns again, when I realised we can send this stack of high quality troops to go up to the top left of Iberia, because there's a faction up there that nobody likes and we can just take a little bit more territory. I've also now got my army decked out with a bunch of weapons and armour upgrades, although they actually do very little. It increases your defence by like 1 to have an armour upgrade. Anyway, these are the guys we need to kill. There's 2 armies right there and a city garrison to deal with. For some reason, these Castilian pretenders are at war with Wales, so we can get Wales, our new ally, to buy us into this war, or the other way around, always get that wrong. We get some cash for no reason, and we get an excuse to go and attack that territory. I also sent some troops to go to Algiers this turn, because of that threat I mentioned earlier. I don't want to leave these guys alone. And actually we can just kill them instantly, and whatever the case, that's some free experience. Although we do have a chance to actually get some cash, because it looks like they slightly rebuilt the settlement. So we'll do a loot and occupy, take some money. While that screws us over as well, if we just leave, then that's fine. It doesn't matter that we're damaging our own buildings. Even better, we can do these downgrades. When you downgrade a building, you get some money. So by downgrading this place and then just leaving it to someone else, we get some free cash. So we're extorting some money from the place with maximum looting potential. On that topic, you can see here in the next turn, we've actually got loads of money, or you might have seen it there. We're making like 10 grand a turn, we've got over 10 grand in the bank right now. The fact we have so much territory is starting to pay off. All this stuff we've captured is now starting to pay tax as we get all the buildings repaired. We're rich, and as I was just checking there, we're also the #1 faction. It used to be the Ayyubid Caliphate, the guys who control the right-hand side of the map, basically. But now it's us, we are officially winning. As for this Pretenders situation, they had 2 armies before, but when I attack this turn there's only 1. Not really sure why, but that helps us out quite a bit. I guess the other army went to invade Wales. It's also a siege draw-out, because they're standing outside the walls. The garrison's full of levy spears and levy crossbows, a nice simple army to engage. Their formation was messed up. I think I arrived too quickly. Their garrison army hadn't finished filing onto the field. I was trying to get my crossbows to shoot those heavy cav as the fight started. That's going to be the main threat amidst all those levy spears who just don't matter. However, I had skirmish mode on, and your guys skirmish from really far away, so we didn't even get a single volley off before we started running away. Oh well, I can form the rest of the line into a shield wall to try and resist a cav charge, and my own cav go out to both flanks ready to attack. As for this charge, well, it wasn't much. They wedged up as if they were going to do something, but they just trotted into the spear wall in the end, so that was fine. Now we've got a nice juicy target on our left. There are like 6 or 7 units of skirmishers all on top of each other there. So we slam in with all of our cav. We don't have enough cav to catch them all in melee, but we can get a few, and at the same time we're coming in from the other direction with our medium cav. Meaning overall, the enemy's back lines are just in chaos. Stuff starts routing right away. It's the same on the front lines really. These spear units have real low morale. Once they lose like 3 guys, they start routing. So obviously we have a big advantage if we can just push into them and get them to fight at all. With that in mind, we're going to throw the reserves into the front and just start pushing. The enemy do have some heavy cav out here amongst the archers, that's the only possible concern. However, I also have heavy cav here, that's enough to bring them down. And this fight's effectively already over. Everything starts routing all over the place. Their general gets killed at the back there, and that's going to make things even worse. I'm surprised those levy spears didn't all just chain route instantly. They did fight on for another 20 seconds or something. Soon enough, the entire army was routing apart from like one unit. We want to keep the battle going though, because we need to go and kill all of those garrison units. This is a siege draw out, so already we need to go to the hunting phase, and many of the units we're hunting were at like full strength, so it takes a while to kill them. We are going to be suffering here from the fact we're fighting right on the edge of the map actually. And as it turns out, we don't get the siege draw out in this case. 2 enemy units did make it back into the garrison. No free capture then, but that was a free win in the battle. We lost like 60 guys and killed over 3,000, an absolute stomp. Really expected that to be a little bit harder. Guess we would have been fine even if their other army was still around. If I had more movement points, I think it would have been able to do another siege draw out on the survivors of that fight. But we don't, so we'll just set up a siege, grab some ladders and get ready to go in next turn. There was another fight nearby actually, because when I ended the turn, looks like Portugal's come over and they wanted to fight the little army outside the town. You can see Portugal's got this interesting army composition, all crossbows all the time. That seems like an interesting army to fight. I wonder if they heard of our legendary crossbowmen from the Siege of Cordoba and decided to try it for themselves. I wanted to vassalize this faction, the Castilian Pretenders, rather than conquer them, because I couldn't be bothered to hold down this territory that's not separated, or not connected, sorry, to mine. But they didn't want to be my vassal, which is a shame, then I would have Castile and the Castilian Pretenders. Instead, we kill them and move on in, although holding this place won't be so bad really, because it's already 100% Christian, so we don't get the massive public order debuff from wrong religion. We still have to do conversions, they're still the wrong culture, so we're going to spend lots of time and money setting this place up, but it's going to be less so than in the other places. And I think we do completely avoid any rebellions happening here in the end. We're also super rich, so doing all the conversions doesn't matter all that much. Interestingly though, the other Castilian Pretenders did come back eventually. They returned from the sea, not sure where they were, but they wanted their home back, and we swiftly went out to attack them. They've got a bunch of levy spears again, which clearly are just pure trash. Even the balance bar seems to think so. Against that full stack, we just killed them with no problems. Because they retreated or something, that also deletes them and their faction. So that whole thing is over. And we got another Pope point from releasing captives, meaning we've now completely removed our debuff from Christianity. That is perfect, that's going to help all over the shop, especially as we gradually force the Iberians to be Christian, which is happening slowly but surely. This main army is going to come back right now from Santiago because it doesn't really need to be there. We're going to start setting up for our next offensive. The Pope wants me to convert people to Christianity, it turns out. We've got another mission. The reward for doing that is just that everywhere gets converted to Christianity a bit, but only temporarily, which is almost useless. But I want to still do the mission, just so the Pope doesn't stop liking me as we go back to having that permanent debuff. So we've got our 2 priests, that's the most we can do for some reason, and they can start trying to convert the locals at Granada to set that up. Anyway, as I said, we're now thinking about going on the offensive. I've got my good armies down here at Seville and Granada, and I'm looking across the water to Fez and Marrakesh. There are now some actual armies from the Almohad Caliphate, so some resistance is expected, but at this stage in the campaign it would be nice if something actually happened, so that's fine. Also, this Marinid thing in Algiers is still going on. They've come back again, but there's also another faction called the Marinid Pretenders or something like that, who are now just outside the town. I attacked. I thought these Pretenders might actually help me in this attack because they're trying to rebel against the Marinids, but in this case they've teamed up against me, so that's not going to happen. Although I did leave the place under naval blockade, just because we could see what happens. If they attack, we can just go away. They're probably not both going to attack because they have different turns. Anyway, to prove I'm actually going to do something now, there's me getting back into the war with the Almohads, getting some cash off England in the process, and here we go against Fez. It's got a full stack inside, and it already has a full stack garrison. Looks like they're dying of disease or something. We, though, have 2 stacks to attack with. Their full stack looks like it's mostly crossbows again. Crossbows are the new meta, it seems. Our armies with only a few crossbows are going to try and do their best. We'll set up with these 2 stacks, and now spend a while making siege equipment will need quite a lot to attack with 2 stacks, especially against such a big defending force. You can also see I've got my stack of trash. We've moved all the bad units out of all my armies into one big trash stack, and they're just going to help control public order while we're away. At Algiers, after about 2 turns, we took the place for free because both of the factions here walked off. The Mariners left the town and the Pretenders went to raid over there. So now we're inside, doesn't really help us very much. I did an occupied territory when I moved in. We could have looted it, but this time I'm actually going to try and sit here for a bit. If we can sit here for 6 or 7 turns, we can make the conversion, get a garrison, and actually try to hold this place down. And now that we're done holding Myberia down for the most part, it's fine to do this. We can slowly start moving our way across the sea and take that place permanently. At Fez, another army has shown up. They're concentrating everything against us. In this case, we're going to keep the siege going. I think attacking right now would be an interesting one, but I wanted more siege towers. Because we have that second army, we need more equipment to give to them once they file in to make a concerted siege effort. So we'll leave it there. Even though this episode had pretty much nothing happening in it, we'll just call this the sitting around doing nothing episode. We've made it through. We've got Myberia under control now, skipping through hours of gameplay. And in the next part, we'll go back to some total warring as we go to conquer some more stuff. And while that will inevitably cause a nothing episode to happen again afterwards, it shouldn't be so bad because at least we're only taking a couple of territories at once, and we'll still be right up against the enemy's land borders so they can retaliate. We'll find out, I suppose. Why don't you join me next time to see if it's any good?